What is the effect of pollution on your life? Is our dependence on convenience affecting our health? In a survey of almost 80 people, only 30% of respondents correctly identified all of the health consequences of pollution. Those consequences included COPD, allergies, other respiratory conditions, heart disease, brain dysfunction, and skin cancer. The most unidentified consequence being heart disease. Heart disease is the leading cause of death in the U.S. The second most unidentified consequence was skin cancer. Cancer is the second leading cause of death in the U.S.
Why is environmental health an ethical issue? The ethical problem within environmental health arises when our needs meet our moral obligations to protect the environment from harm. The ethical question is, how much is one person willing to do to mitigate their unavoidable contribution to the global pollution problem? Perhaps you have heard of the trolley dilemma. A trolley or a train is barreling down the tracks toward a group of workers. You see a lever that can be pulled to divert the train to another track. On the other track is one unsuspecting worker. Are you willing to pull the lever to save the 5 workers while determining the fate of another? Now, this is an extreme example on a much larger scale. However, each individual must determine what change they are willing to make in their own lifestyle in order to help others. For example, a commuter can ride their bike to work, thus reducing their carbon footprint. This is better for the environment. However, a cyclist is exposed to more toxins than someone who is driving in a car with their windows up and their air conditioners on. Meanwhile, the driver is adding to the pollution problem while separating themselves from the toxic exposure. Humans must take responsibility and understand the impact that each person's individual behavior makes on the environment. Whose responsibility is environmental and public health? Everyone. Education is the key. In order for the public to make positive changes to their lifestyles, they must understand the harmful effects pollution has on their health and what roles they play in keeping the environment healthy.
Okay, when looking at the current research of the dilemma of if corporations should be required to incorporate green technology to protect the workers and the general population, there's always seems to be the same argument reoccurring, which is how does the pollution affect on air quality and people, and if the corporations were to institute a green initiative, how much would it be a benefit or hurt the economy? That's the big deal, people versus the economy. Because when we look at it, we seem to see that workers are being affected by the actual chemicals, and yet the money, if they were to lose their jobs, are an issue. While we do have the EPA consistently working to improve air quality, many corporations are resisting, citing that job losses would occur, creating more harm to the everyday person without having financial resources. With having the economy involved, many think that the public health issues are then therefore political issues, since it would be current policy to create and enforce the change among the companies. If that is the case, then the everyday person should be more aware of the current research, such as when the acid rain program was instituted as part of the Clean Air Act. SO2 emissions drastically fell. Most people, however, don't seem to realize that the big deal is SO2 is sulfur oxide. It's found in coal, diesel, and oil. Everyday exposure of it can lead to harmful effects. So, what can we also do as nurses? We're aware of the teaching, we are aware of the ramifications of pollution, but what can we do? In addition to patient and group education about the health risks of the population, we need to also look towards where we can set an example. Given that hospitals produce more than 5 million tons of waste annually, and that contributes to the air pollution because we incinerate the plastics, such as The catheters, gloves, fluid bags, IVs, we need to take a role. The reduction of waste does not just contribute to the improvement of air quality, but also cost efficient. When we look at other studies across the board, we saw that $10 billion was spent on disposal costs. That's across the healthcare board, not individually. However, one hospital in their one unit, the ICU, was able to save $72,000 per year just by reevaluation of what they needed and how the inventory was set up just on that unit. We as nurses already understand that the population affects health, and when we work on the education with the general public, but we also need to turn inwards and take initiative for our place of work and help reduce the carbon footprint.
At this point in time, most of us in a civilized society know the main causes of outdoor air pollution, but how much do we actually think about doing our part to improve air quality for ourselves and our future generations? As you may already realize, vehicle exhaust is a main contributor to poor air quality. These exhaust fumes release high quantities of carbon monoxide into the environment, which happens to be the largest air pollutant in the United States. Fossil fuel-based power plants, industrial plants, and factories release chemicals such as sulfur dioxide directly into the environment, which combine with water in the atmosphere, contributing to acid rain, which then gets into our soil, plants, and water supply, hence contributing to pollution in more ways than just through the air. We all contribute to outdoor air quality individually with the products that we use indoors as well. Household cleaning and renovation supplies such as bleach, paint, and cigarette smoke release toxic pollutants into the air we breathe every single day. Also, many people would not think of volcanoes and wildfires when they are considering causes of pollution, because they may not live in an area where these natural disasters are prevalent. But there are 12 states in the U.S. alone that have the possibility of an active volcano, and it is almost impossible to not notice the devastating wildfires in the news scattered about our country and around the globe in seasons of drought. Wildfires and volcanoes both release microscopic solids and liquids into the air that are so incredibly small that they can be inhaled directly into the lungs and bloodstream, causing devastating side effects. Many people with pre-existing conditions already know the overwhelming signs and symptoms that poor air quality can cause because it directly affects their everyday life by exacerbating or worsening conditions such as asthma, allergies, and COPD. But air pollution contributes to new onset respiratory conditions as well, affecting people that have never smoked or work in circumstances that would cause respiratory disease. Pollution is an irritant to the eyes, nose, skin, throat, and lungs, and long-term effects to the respiratory system by pollution contribute to neurological deficits. In a small internet survey we conducted, including approximately 80 participants, only 35% of people thought it was possible that air pollution contribute to heart disease. This proves that education is of utmost importance if we want to make a change in our world. Continual exposure to even small amounts of air pollution greatly increases risk of cardiovascular disease. These toxins damage blood vessels and contribute to heart attack. So what can we do? We already touched on the fact that vehicle exhaust is the main cause of air pollution. So obviously this is high on the list of things that need to be changed. Individually, it is difficult to just pick up and get a new vehicle if you're not already in the market for one, but if possible, when you do go out to purchase a new car, get a hybrid or electric. You can also advocate for your local government to do things such as give tax credits and rebates to those who decide to convert their standard gas-powered vehicles to hybrid or electric rather than just getting a new car altogether. Promote for companies to get things such as tax breaks for making electric cars rather than fuel-powered. Be the one to start a conversation that leads to change. Some may argue that it won't be cost-effective or convenient for them, but little bits of change at a time can lead to a massive change long-term. Also, if your big diesel truck or lawn tractor are things that are necessary in your life, make the little changes that work for you. Take public transportation when possible, carpool, walk, or ride a bike. All of these things can help our air quality. Next up is our reliance on fossil fuel power plants. First of all, we all need to be mindful and use less energy, period. Purchase energy-efficient devices, turn electronics and lights off when you leave a room. Not only does this conserve energy and reduce pollution, but it saves you money too, so it's a win-win. Another thing you can do is be an advocate for cleaner alternative sources of energy. Write a letter to your local representative requesting bills for clean energy to be passed into law. States such as New Jersey already have incentives in place for homeowners who transition to solar energy. Solar may be expensive to get started, but saves a lot of energy and money long term. If every state offered tax rebates and financial incentives for converting to alternative sources of energy, imagine how far we could go in improving air quality. According to the census, in Pennsylvania alone, there are more than 4.5 million households, but only approximately 56,000 are run by solar power. This is a whole lot of space for improvement. Finally, I would like to stress one more time that education is the key to making change. If people understand the cause and effects to situations, if they understand simply how their body works and the things that affect it, the positive effects of treating your body and earth well versus the negatives of not properly caring for them, then maybe this will be the solution.
What does all this mean? Despite the fact that air pollution has been proven to cause and worsen respiratory diseases, Americans remain largely uneducated about the true effects of air pollution on their bodies, with only approximately 35% of respondents correctly identifying all the possible side effects of air pollution. As you can see in the graph below, 68.4% thought that pollution contributed to chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. 92.4% thought pollution contributed to allergies. 91.1% thought that it contributed to other respiratory issues. Only 35.4% thought it contributed to heart disease. 46.8% thought that pollution contributed to brain dysfunction, and 50.6% thought it contributed to skin cancer. In fact, pollution contributes to all these conditions. What have we learned from this research paper? We've learned that the goal of increasing the use of bicycles, walking, and other forms of transportation is not enough alone to reduce the effect on respiratory diseases. Most people require education about the effects of air pollution in order to make informed decisions. Less than half of the people in our survey did not identify reducing the number of automobiles or the size of the automobile as a necessary measure in the reduction of air pollution. Could this be an indication that people favor convenience over their health? While 79.5% and 87.2% of respondents agreed that investment in green technology and the reduction of harmful chemicals was important, most did not agree that corporations should be taxed that do not use green energy, even though manufacturing represents one of the largest contributors of air pollution. How does pollution impact nursing care? Well, it impacts nursing care in a couple of ways. The effect of air pollution on healthcare is twofold. Healthcare is one of the biggest abusers of waste problems in this country. It is also a major contributor in the manufacturing of healthcare products. The results of air pollution and the subsequent healthcare issues associated with it, such as COPD, respiratory diseases, heart disease, skin cancer, and more, result in billions of dollars in healthcare costs. In a society suffering from a critical shortage of nurses and healthcare workers, this is a huge concern.